Hey there, it's Teresa here live from LA. And I am honored that you chose to join me, especially if you're catching the replay. Know that I welcome you as I gather wait for some folks to come on live. Today's just another conversation about this message that I'm clear I'm called to share to help people heal in their relationship with money, in their relationship with themselves, and in their relationship with God, creator, source, spirit. So if you're here hopping on live, please go ahead and just type in your name so I can see who's here live. That would be great. And I can engage with you and make sure technology is working well here from LA. Today's conversation is going to be a little shorter than previous weeks because I need to get out the door to catch my ride to my workshop, which I'm out here with Jeffrey Van Dyke, actually working on developing this message. So I'm going to be steeping myself in this. This is a great way to get started. Good morning, Shayna. So glad you could join. So I've been thinking about how I wanted to share this idea of we need a new creation story in order to create a new financial story in our lives, in order to create truly a new story for our lives. And some events that have happened in my life lately have me be really clear. Hey, Janelle, so glad you could join. Have me be really clear that I'm in the midst of living and creating this, living into this new creation story, of taking it from idea to manifestation in my life. And ultimately, that's what I'm hoping these conversations and the message and the work that I'm going to be developing can help you do, as well as it is me. So this morning, as I was lying in bed here, I suddenly had a blinding flash of the obvious. So if you've ever worked with me, or if you've worked with a transformational coach, a spiritual coach, the law of attraction, you've probably heard the concept that what we focus on the most is what shows up and expands in our lives. What we give our attention to and our energy to is what determines our actions and our results. It's what we experience in our lives. So for a lot of the women and men that I'm here to serve, as I've said in previous conversations, I'm in a swivelly chair. Can you tell I'm swiveling? We've grown up in some type of a traditional Christian religion. I was raised Catholic, Lutheran, Methodist, you name it. But even in the more evangelical churches since then, there is this belief, this theology called original sin. Okay? Maybe you grew up in Sunday school or CCD classes or in parochial school hearing about original sin. If you've ever heard about original sin stemming back to the second creation story with Adam and Eve eating the fruit of the tree and being banished from the garden, that is the story that is used to justify this belief in original sin. Now, original sin, if you think about the two words, original means it's original. It was there at the beginning. Now, I'm not here to get into a big conversation or dialogue or discussion about theology. What I want you to know, though, about this concept called original sin, which has been part of the Christian tradition, not the Judaic tradition, okay? So this is where Christianity diverged from its roots. Remember, Jesus was not a Christian. Jesus was a Jew, and his religious tradition was the Judaic one. And original sin was not part of the Judaic tradition. And here's the thing you may not know. It wasn't part of the original Christian tradition either after Jesus's death. In fact, in his history, theological history, the concept of original sin didn't even begin to be developed until the 2nd century. And then it was only in reaction to another belief system called Gnosticism that the Christians wanted to refute. Okay? So now, if you're like me, when I learned this, it was like, what? Because I was steeped in this idea of original sin. I can remember as a kid, now, in Catholic tradition, there was this catechism called the Baltimore Catechism, not one I would recommend any longer. I wasn't taught it in parochial school, but my older sisters were. And there was a copy of their Baltimore Catechism in the house. And as a kid, I loved to read about it. I loved to read about all things God. And there was an image of original sin and us. And I wish I could show it here right now, but I know that doesn't work so well here, but maybe in the future. But the image was like of a milk bottle. And the milk bottle started out dark. And that was the picture of original sin. And the picture was, that's how we began. That's who we were until in this catechism, there was a milk bottle that was white. And that is what was taught happens when we were baptized. So like baptism washed us of original sin. But when you stop and think about that, that's believing that who we were when God created us was inherently bad, dark, wrong, sinful. That's not the first creation story. That's not in any of the original creation stories where everything that God created, including human beings, was good. Shane is going, correct that it's not in the Judaic tradition. Yeah, okay, was good. That means you and I are inherently good. It even says in one of those creation stories that we were created in the image of God or the Creator. Good, good, good. But now if as a child, if you were taught in church, in school, in Sunday school, CCD, faith formation, whatever, about original sin, it's like, as a child, not understanding it's a very complex theological doctrine, and I'm not throwing it out, I'm just saying it has implications that do not serve us to be the people that we were created to be, to live the lives that we were created to live, to experience the God who loves us, to have financial prosperity and well-being for ourselves, and to share that with others. It doesn't support it. Because if as a child you think that something is inherently wrong with you, you are sinful, then that's going to set off a course of action in life that you're going to be living out. I got to prove I'm good. I've got to prove I'm good enough. I have to do these things to be good. If you're living your life, even if it's subconsciously with a belief that something is wrong with you, you're either going to take actions to prove that it ain't, or you're going to take actions that are just going to confirm your belief. And this, my friend, shows up in many ways around money. First of all, this is where people can start to have a belief, not even conscious, that they don't deserve, that they're not worthy, that they can't have what they want, even that the only thing they should want is to be with God in heaven one day when their life is over. And in the meantime, they just have to struggle through. If they don't think they deserve or are worthy or they're not good enough, how that can show up around money is chronic debt, chronic under earning, never always having like old, outdated, worn out things, living very minimalistically, always on the edge, just enough to get by. It can also show up in just the opposite, that people can rebel against it. And so it's like, the hell that I'm not good enough. And then they're going to go prove how good they are. And they're going to make lots of money and they're going to have lots of things and they're going to have nice things. But the problem is all those things that they've accomplished or achieved or have, first of all, they don't prove that you're good enough. And oftentimes we go through great stress and struggles to achieve them. And we're ultimately not any happier, really. If you have a belief that you're not good enough, whatever you do have, you're probably going to work really hard for it. It's the only way you can justify having nice things. If you think you're not good enough or don't deserve or aren't worthy, you may find yourself making lots of money and you're one of those people who you give it away, you give it away, you give it away. And it's great to give it away, but do you give it away at your own expense? I remember once I had a client who really was taught that she should give. And she was still hemorrhaging financially, going backwards into debt. And as she began to track where her money was going, we discovered that she had a good income, but she was giving away between 30 and 40% of her income to the church every month, or to charitable contributions. God bless her for wanting to give, but it was at her own expense. I always say you can't give blood if you're hemorrhaging. You got to make yourself well and healthy so that then you can give. So when you focus on what you focus on, if you focus on the part of the story that's about fall and sinfulness, if you've been steeped in a theology of original sin, what can start to happen, and this has happened for many people these days, is they, like, at some level they get, that doesn't compute. That just doesn't make sense. I can't believe that. Intuitively, they believe there's goodness in them and there's goodness in the world. And so what happens is then they leave their religion and they're spiritual, but not religious. And I get that. What they don't understand is they don't have to necessarily throw out religion. It's because they don't know the full story of their religion. They don't know that original sin was not the original tradition. Sometimes before we throw out a story like, baby and the bathwater, it helps to learn more about it. And what you may discover is there's a story before the story. And that's what you can buy into. So original sin, not part of the creation story, not part of the original Judaic tradition, not part of the first 2 centuries of the Christian tradition. What was front and center in those traditions was God's goodness, God's mercy, God's providing, God's caring for his creation, God's wanting good for his creation, which includes you and me. God wanting us to know and love and trust in his provision and not get distracted and make gods of other things, including money. So stop and think about it. As you reflect back on your own upbringing, on your own life history, where or how have you been taught or maybe come to believe that something is inherently wrong with you, that you're not good enough just the way you are, wherever you are? that you don't deserve to have what you want. Maybe even that wanting what you want is even bad. And how has that perhaps shaped your relationship with money? Maybe you've experienced guilt, fear, lack, holding on to, giving it all away. And what would happen for you if just for a moment, like you could erase that story in your mind and transplant instead a story that you are good, that you are loved, that you were created by love, that you are part of something bigger than you, that you have access to all that you need and want, that it is okay for you to be you and to want what you want, and that this universe that we live in is meant to be abundant. What if it's all good? What if you could transplant that story? You're good, God's good, life is good. Even right now, your money struggles that you may be experiencing, what if even that is good or working out good for you? Maybe then you could enjoy your life a bit more, not feel so much pressure, not be always having to prove, not always have to be doing. Maybe then you could face that money monster that you've been afraid to look at because you've thought whatever's going on for you around money has said something about you, has made you more or less than. That's my wish for you, that you begin today. Look at life, look at yourself, look at money, even if you have money struggles right now. Today, just practice looking through it all through the eyes of it's all good, it's all blessing, it's all grace, it's all part of abundance. It has been from the beginning. Just see what happens. I'm going to do that as well today. So now I'm going to check in for questions and comments. It's been harder to do this in my studio here in LA. So let's see what we've got. Shayna's going, Shayna could relate to looking for proof from others that support the idea that we're not enough. Absolutely. And you know what? You're going to get that. Because here in America, at least, and I'm sure Shayna, you can get this, whether you grew up Christian or not, the Christian narrative is the primary spiritual narrative here in America, even if it's a misguided one. So that's going to be in there. Even the Christian narrative then has Jesus come to save us from our sins. I'm not debating or arguing that, but notice how that goes back to to save us from our sins. Something's inherently wrong with us. That's not the original creation story. So today, my friends, live your life, make choices in your life as if it's all good, as if you are good and loved and worthy and deserving. That doesn't mean you don't have to take actions. If you're in debt and you've been thinking, oh, that makes you not good enough and feels less than and has you feel shame, you can sit and go, okay, I am still good. I am blessed. I am loved. I am still, a miracle of creation, and I have debt. That isn't going to mean that the debt's going to go away. And it doesn't mean you want to go out and charge up a bunch more debt. But from that premise of being, I'm inherently good, now you can take empowered action to deal with that debt. Good morning, Anne. Janelle's going, I would love to look at things that way today and tomorrow and tomorrow. Yes, moment by moment by moment. I have the thought that maybe next week or the next week or two, I think I'm going to have this really, really focus in on that. Everything's good. Everything's good. Everything's good. I think that would be a great next conversation because, it challenges me too. So anyway, I thank you all for being here. Any other final comments? Just remember, what you focus on is what shows up. Watch for the ways without even realizing it. You focus or think or see yourself, others, things as not good, not enough, bad, wrong, not deserving, not worthy, and change your focus and just go back to that first creation story. It's good. It's good. And everything is good. And everything is good. And everything is good. And everything is good. And that includes you. And that includes me. And that includes your life. Thanks for being here. I'll see you here next Wednesday. Good morning, Ann. Glad you could join. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.